Welcome to A Cinematic Journey. I'm Peter Billingsley.
My name is Nick Schenk.
Yes, and this is the podcast where we explore the themes, scenes, and elements of the movies that we love. And today's movie was actually with two different studios in a 24-hour period.
This movie was written in a single weekend.
Yes, and John Candy made the most out of a 23-hour workday.
This was inspired from a single scene from another film. And oddly, this is arguably the most violent Christmas movie after Die Hard.
That's right. And of course, we're talking about
Home Alone.
Home Alone.
I can't seem to find my toothbrush, so I'll pick one up when I go out today. Other than that, I'm in good shape.
Right away, we see Kevin McAllister. He is the youngest of a very large family.
There's so many kids, they don't even name them all in the beginning.
We are in the suburbs of Chicago.
We're in a very nice home. There's a cop at the house.
And he's giving some warnings that there's been a rash of break-ins in the neighborhood for people to be careful. It's the holiday season. These things are going on. We learn that he isn't who he says he is.
This whole giant family, we're talking like 13, 14 people, are all getting ready to pack their bags and go on an airplane and go to France.
Kevin feels unnoticed, underappreciated, and feels like he's always the guy who they blame everything on. The mom even banishes him to sleep in the attic overnight. We get a real sense here that he's not happy in this family, and this family is not really happy with him. He's made a declaration. He wishes that his family would disappear. He doesn't want them around anymore.
Right. And so he comes off as a little harsh, but, we've got kids and, an 8-year-old is very capable of saying that stuff. And a frustrated parent ready to go on a trip is very capable of saying something back.
And so just after this, the family wakes up. They're late for this trip. They rush and fly to the airport.
Right.
And they get there and they run onto a plane. And that's what takes us to really what is the central conflict of this movie in this next scene. Yeah. Let's take a look.
What else could we be forgetting?
Kevin! I made my family disappear.
Kevin, you're completely helpless. There are 15 people in this house, and you're the only one who has to make trouble.
Look what you did, you little jerk.
I made my family disappear.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. No matter how many gifts you get this holiday season, you get to define how you give to yourself.
For those who have participated in or have given the gift of therapy, you know it helps people become the best versions of themselves. One of the most common themes of holiday movies is growth. What better sponsor to have than the only therapy designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule?
So if you're thinking about starting therapy, BetterHelp is entirely online and is the easiest way to get started. In the season of giving, give yourself what you need with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Christmas today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Christmas. So there you have it. The game is afoot, so to speak, and
Absolutely.
This really does set up the central conflict of the movie. Kevin believes his wish did in fact come true. He is now home alone, and his family has disappeared in his eyes. Now, this is a kid who couldn't pack his own suitcase.
Right.
So can he survive? Can he make it with his family gone by himself?
Even more so, he doesn't know what's coming, which is there's burglars got his house targeted. And not much later, they realize he's home alone.
So there's sort of three threads that we're following. It's Kevin home alone. Can he feed himself, take care of himself? We have burglars approaching, and we get the sense that these two trains are going to collide. And third, the family is now gone, and they are going to have their own story of trying to get back.
Along for the ride.
This kind of leads us into an interesting element of movies, which, is sort of buying the buy that we call sometimes.
Buying
right?
the buy.
This is something that we talk about a lot when we're developing movies, when we're editing movies. If you don't believe or buy the concept that leads you off into the journey, you're not going to believe or like anything in the rest of the movie.
For a lot of people, it was a stretch that you would leave an 8-year-old alone. But the filmmakers had to spend a lot of craft and work and thought and time in making sure this is airtight and that we buy that in this cast be able to leave an 8-year-old, their youngest kid alone. There's a scene in the kitchen where everything goes wrong the night before, and the pizza gets spilled and the milk gets spilled. It goes all over the passports and their tickets. As they gather up the wet napkins, you see a shot into the garbage can, and there's a single airline ticket.
Yeah, and it's Kevin's airline ticket. And this just kind of takes off the table, so to speak, that when they got to the ticket counter, they wouldn't have the ticket and then realize, oh, Kevin's not here. In addition, the filmmakers also add this sense of magic when Kevin wishes his family would disappear. It's almost like circus music. It's as though the environment is conspiring and swirling. Kind of reminds me of Big.
Right.
You know, when he makes that wish, the wind is blowing, the electricity goes off, which means that they oversleep in the morning and they're rushing out of the house in chaos, further helping us by we left an 8-year-old behind.
They all rush out into 2 different vehicles. One of the kids takes a head count of all the kids, and they accidentally include a neighbor.
And further to that, they've also built in a European trip, which is a long flight. So they're going to be airborne without phones, and the phones are out in the neighborhood. So there's a lot of detail, but if you, as you said, a lot of people would say, I would never leave my 8-year-old home alone. Well, they pull it off, you believe it, and they can do it.
Absolutely. And so when you try to punch holes in this, it's pretty airtight.
In search of the perfect DP.
Well, we are very excited to welcome our guest, cinematographer of Home Alone, Julio Macat. Thank you for coming in.
Oh, thank
so
you
much.
for having
Appreciate
me.
it. This is awesome. It's very cool because there's a lot of elements, obviously, to this movie that people love. But I would certainly say that the photography, the momentum, the beauty, the stunts is right up there. This was your second feature film, and your first one was a horror movie, right?
Yeah, my first one was barely called a movie. It was 5 guys trying to make something out of a story. But yeah, it was my first union job. I actually, as a director of photography, I had done a second unit for Warner Brothers. Okay. For a movie called Tango and Cash, where we did a lot of stunts.
Oh, also a lot of music videos and some pretty sexy other commercials, right? I mean, this was the day when there was a lot of handicapping from the visual style of music videos and commercials, right? People were pulling talent out of that pool.
Definitely. And also moving the camera to a score, to music. I have to say my forte was moving the camera to music. And then something else I had on my reel, which was a Christmas commercial. It was a McDonald's commercial called The Perfect Tree, which was, a family going out to find the perfect Christmas tree. So the camera would drive around town and see all the houses with the lights on.
Oh, that's cool.
And stuff,
Is this your commercial?
Oh, my God, this is it. Oh, my God, that's a commercial.
For those hardy souls who brave the elements in search of the perfect tree, McDonald's has a treat just for you.
Can you imagine? That got me the gig. How fun is that? An executive from Warner Brothers introduced Chris Columbus and I, and he saw that on my reel, and he saw that I could do the stunts, and he thought he'd take a chance.
A big idea and battle plans.
John Hughes had shared with Vince that when he was testing Uncle Buck, one of the highest testing and favorite scenes is when John Candy's girlfriend comes to the door. Macaulay opens the mail slot and demands to see the driver's license, right? And is, in fact, protecting the home in a kind of real way. The audience went nuts for it. And I think it, either he had the concept and it gave him confidence, or it was an aha moment to say, man, I can build a movie around this.
He wrote the script from over a period of 3 days or 4 days or something like that, from beginning to end.
Yes.
The concept of a little boy protecting his house and protecting himself, how powerful that concept is. And how I think that's what resonated, around the audiences around the world, that every kid felt like, oh, I'm going to set up some traps and make sure the boogeyman doesn't get me.
Were you, this film is obviously a comedy. You didn't have a lot of that in your, necessarily in your work. Were you intimidated knowing that it was comedy, or was there an approach that you took to the comedy that you felt confident that you would be able to execute?
Chris Columbus had talked about, the tone of the movie, which is so important for the cinematographer and the director to discuss what the tone is. And what I thought instinctively, what I did correctly was to convey all of our conversations, I wrote this letter to the crew saying what Chris and I had been talking about and the things that were important to us and the tone of it and how we were going to try to, in the color palette, we were going to go in this direction and how we were going to try to move the camera a lot until the time when the kid realizes that he was left alone and then the camera was going to stop for the effect. And I also wanted to point out that the reverse effect of, when you go into your grandparents' house or the place where you were raised, and when you go in there as an adult and everything seems so little, right?
Yes.
All the rooms seem so tiny. And I thought, well, what would the reverse of that be for a little kid? I started to go around my house on my knees a lot just to see that point of view of the lower angle. And I thought, okay, so the reverse effect of something being so small is that a little kid would see it all as big. We talked about the house being a character and how in some scenes we were trying to make the house come to life, to be scary. Originally, we had a visual effects sequence of the fireplace coming to life, which, got cut from the fact that we couldn't afford to do it. And then it turned into, the camera simply with a big wide-angle lens rushing towards
that furnace?
The furnace, and then that furnace opening up and a light gag inside.
Right.
So somehow that became a $2 million sequence that we couldn't afford.
But it's because you had a point of view on it, right? So then you could execute it. You knew what you wanted to get out of it, so you can just adjust the technique.
Was, right? Yeah.
But you knew what the point was.
But it was great that every department knew about that.
On other movies, people don't do that, and I think it suffers from it because there's so many departments.
Right.
There's so many decisions being made. You want to all come from the same place.
Yeah. Instead of it being a job, this is an endeavor.
Trust me, all of this was just instinctual because I had no freaking clue what I was doing. I just thought I knew I could shoot shots, but I didn't know that they would come together and have a flow to it. It was one of those circumstances where every facet, every department helped the next one. I got to tell you, I've done 40 movies now, and it just doesn't happen that often. It may have happened 3 or 4 times in my career. It's to where everything helps everything else, and then in the end, it's a conglomerate of everyone at their best.
Hughes protects his house.
This movie almost didn't happen. Were you in prep when?
Yeah, to summarize it, they wanted to make a $10 million movie that went up to something like 14 in the end.
Warner Brothers wanted a $10 million, and the budget was going up in prep, right? Which happens. And people thought, I think Scott, our producer, and people thought, this is a major studio. If it's $3 to $4 million difference, they'll figure out how to make it up. It's a humble budget.
It's John Hughes.
And it's John Hughes.
Who has had a lot of success. His movies have proven they make a lot of money.
Chris Columbus, who,
that's right.
Had
done Adventures in Babysitting.
Had written Goonies, just amazing. It's not. And they were, seeing that we had our act together, we were prepared, we had boards, we had a plan.
Sure.
But they made the mistake, Warner Brothers did, to get into a pissing match with John Hughes. And little did they know that John Hughes had an open door at another studio, when they really wanted him and they wanted his business. And he had spoken to Joe Roth, about it. And when they saw that the movie wasn't getting made, it was tricky because, for a movie to go into turnaround and to get picked up by another studio.
It doesn't happen all the time.
It doesn't happen all the time.
But this went down quickly.
It went down over
like in a day, like overnight.
Yeah. At one point, we had a Warner Brothers representative shutting down the movie, shutting it down, just coming to every department and saying, pack up your stuff and we're done.
Right. They're
bringing you boxes and saying,
go home. Go home.
But you're close to shooting, right?
I would say we were 2 to 3 weeks away from
2 to 3 weeks away from shooting.
Yeah. And prepared and And then Scott, our producer, comes in right after the Warner Brothers guys. Said, wait, guys, it's not just don't pack up just yet.
Don't go to Hawaii.
We're trying to see if we can figure this out. And and you know that horrible feeling when you're about 100%. To do something and then the bottom falls out of it.
Yep.
It's so heartbreaking.
It's the worst. Basically, John had probably sensed this coming.
Yeah.
Right. And had a relationship at Fox.
Yes.
And had said, hey, if this happens, this might be available.
Yeah.
And they had probably given him assurances to say, if it does, we're here for you.
Yeah, exactly. I think John had to pitch Fox what it was and what the budget was and how far apart they were.
But they knew the value of it. And by the way, I mean, I know we say either illegal or whatever. This is also like when kids go get another job and then put in their 2 weeks notice. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not uncommon to say, let me get set up. Yeah. I'll take Warner's to the wall, say, all right, then do it or don't. Warner's called the bluff and said no. And Fox said, great, bring it on over here.
Can you imagine being that executive who called John Hughes
100%. And it's so short-sighted.
And said the thing, take it or leave it. That goes to show you, don't mess around with John Hughes, who hated the establishment. He hated the studio system.
100%.
He
didn't live in Los Angeles.
No, that's why he stayed in Chicago so he could control his projects and and it was so sad, what happened and how young he died because he had a lot more to say.
100%.
He was just a genius, I think, and we all learned so much from him.
Smoke and mirrors.
Many of the gags were on camera. When Pesci gets burned in the head.
Yes, a famous.
Okay, that was an on-camera practical effect that we did. We had a two-way mirror in front of the lens, and then the two-way mirror projected off to the side a little black square. Within the black square, we had a mannequin so that we could have real fire hitting the mannequin around the head, and it would the fire would contour itself around the mannequin's head. And we lined it up exactly so that it looked like it was hitting Pesci.
Unbelievable.
How are you coming up with these? I mean, on the spot, on the day, are you collaborating with Chris and the production designer, and are you sort of in a room and drawing things? How are you coming up with these?
In that case, we talked about how we couldn't afford to do it with visual effects. And I think John Muto, the production designer, said, well, we could always do a mirror shot. And I went, what the hell is that?
Right.
And he goes, well, if you get a two-way mirror and you project the thing, and have you ever been to Disneyland? When you're in the haunted house ride and you see the people dancing, the ghosts dancing around, it's the same effect that you're reflecting. And I go, oh, shit, well, let me see if I can figure that out. And it just happened to work. The other one was when we had to shoot Kevin at the Christmas tree, and he's looking at the red ball, and he sees a reflection of the bad guys. He sees Pesci peeking through the window.
Right.
So we had to figure out how to get the camera that close and shoot that and not see ourselves. So we figured out how to put two mirrors at an angle with a hole cut in the middle so that you would be reflecting other parts of the house instead of the camera.
Awesome. I've never heard of that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was cool.
I wanted to ask you, too, about the tarantula.
Yes.
I mean, he has a point of view on this.
I mean, the tarantula kind of steals the show in a lot of scenes.
It does.
Every scene that it's in the foreground or in the background, it kind of just like, it's a major character, really.
Was it real on the face?
It was real on the face.
You put a tarantula on his face.
Yeah, and the funniest thing about that, so you had a spider wrangler. So Daniel Stern goes, right before we do the scene, I just want to confirm with you that the spider is not going to sting me.
Right, of course. Logical question.
Right. The wrangler goes, well, I'm sorry, but I can't guarantee that. So he got nervous, and then he finally says, shit, let's just do it. And he got into like a thing. And then we did it, and with that energy and that panic 100%. And that reaction, It was real, and it was on his face, and he flipped out, and we got it.
It's a genuine reaction.
But I had read that the scream was dubbed in because if he would have screamed, it would have bit him maybe. And was that true?
I think so, but I guarantee you that he screamed. I heard a scream.
Was there a camera that you use, and did you have a name for it?
Yes.
What is it called?
Yeah, we used to call it bonus cam.
But you had another name for it.
Also known as the chicken shit camera.
Okay, that's right.
Because when we started, and I felt so bad, these stunt guys were taking big falls, you know, and Chris would watch the monitor and cringe. So I wanted to respect that. So I was also scared that I wasn't going to get the stunt. So we'd usually have 2 cameras on the stunt. And then I got, an IMO camera, the smallest camera possible with I remember it was a 100-foot spool of film. And
You're talking like inches by inches.
Camera.
It's small, right? Is there a
know.
moment you can think of in the film where it's in that chicken shit cam and a hero shot, or that it saved you?
Oh, absolutely. Almost. Well, you don't know what's happened. What happened was that bonus cam at Daly's became the hero. It was the funniest shot.
Really?
It was, oftentimes all we could do was put it on the edge of the frame.
Right.
And then it just so happened that Pesci would fall and his face would be right next to the camera. And it was the best shot of the whole gag, because it was wide, it was silly, but it was effective.
Vince Vaughn had told me that you used it on Wedding Crashers.
Oh, yeah.
For similar reasons, right? These guys are violently hitting each other for real on the field, and you want to capture it.
You want to capture it, and what's really fun is to place it and hide it so that people don't even know it's there.
They don't know that it's there.
Yeah,
It's providing you insurance to
definitely
get the shot.
So we, so you'd have very commonly known as a trash can camera, where there'd be a trash can in the middle of nowhere, and we're hiding a camera inside.
Right.
But when we figured out that this wide angle was really working, then we started to think about what else can we do with it. Let's tie it to a rope and let's send it down the chute, to be the point of view of the iron falling down. And for the audience to see the nail right before he steps on the nail. And that was a very simple gag where the nail, as you push down on it, it just went under.
Right. That's just.
But. And I put an extra little light on the nail so that
Make sure you really know it's right where your eye goes.
And all the comedic stuff, it plays better wide.
It does.
We learned that comedy works best when you see the detail, then you see the results wide. And then in the ideal world, you have the person watching it.
Pete, it's the holidays.
Yes.
What do you think about? You think about food. You and I, we're dudes. We love food.
Oh, yes. We love cooking. We love cooking for and with our families.
Yes.
And we're going to be doing a lot of cooking on our Traeger this holiday season.
Yes.
In fact, we're going to fire it up and we're going to do a turkey on the Traeger and we're going to smoke a pie for dessert.
Done.
So many great products. They have rubs, they have sauces. At Traeger.com, you can get all of your cooking needs right there in one stop. And I've been using the Wi-Fi connectivity, which means that I can monitor the temperature, the duration of the cook right on the Traeger app on my phone.
Right.
I don't even have to be at home. So for something like the size of a turkey, I get it on, I get the probes in it, and I just start to watch this thing as it cooks. I don't have to keep opening the lid, doing the push test, second guessing, hoping that it's done. I know exactly to the number what the internal temperature is, and I basically just wait until it's done.
They have the pellets. They have different flavored pellets. They have different sauces and rubs and everything. It's all encompassing.
So whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned veteran, Traeger has the right grill for you. These grills are available in all different types at Traeger.com, and they have a sale going on right now. They don't do a lot of sales. It's $300 off select grills. Go to Traeger.com, check it out.
Ready, set, kid.
We kept saying, if only we can make a movie as good as A Christmas Story. You know, that was the thing.
What a compliment.
But ironic, right? That your film was inspirational in making Home Alone. We talked about your film time and time again.
I sincerely was not aware of that.
Yeah.
I'm
we
really
should
on any
ask
level.
Chris Columbus sometime. We kept talking about what was it, you know, that made Ralphie so likable, and you know that sucked you into the story.
We just had the guests on from Christmas Story, and they were reminding us that the bullies in that movie, Bob Clark, the director, kept the bullies away from myself and Flick and Schwartz. Is it true that Chris kept Joe and Daniel away from Macaulay offset to
especially
to not let them get too friendly?
Yeah, especially with Pesci. You wanted him to be more scary.
So he discouraged them from spending time together?
Yes, he definitely did. I thought that was really smart because they were the boogeyman, you know, they were the bad
100%.
guys. And
if they're lunching in the trailer, they might get too comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was there, and I thought that was very clever.
They're committed. You know, they're not in a comedy.
Yeah.
Those actors, they're in a real situation.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what makes it funny. The situation is absurd, but the way they play it and the commitment, and it's not, you know, it's not a bunch of yucks to each other, and it's painful and it hurts, and they're selling it. And you have good actors. I mean, Pesci obviously is an Oscar actor.
Yeah, his biggest problem was going to be not cussing. He had to develop his own Russia, you know.
What? What happened?
We dealt with this on a lot of the movies I did, that the kids can only work certain hours.
Yeah, 6 hours.
Right. And so the boards you would have to do, or sometimes do coverage without the kids there, or do moments, you know, you'd shoot Macaulay for the first 6 hours, then do the stuff in the van with the bad guys.
Yeah, we
to
needed
maximize your day, because you can't just shoot a 6 hour day.
No, we had two really good doubles for Macaulay, so we could shoot over shoulders. You know, we did several of those when we lost him after 6 hours. But he loved being on the set. He loved. It was when the little Nintendo was popular, so he'd be playing Nintendo on the set. He'd be sitting on people's laps.
It's fun.
I give him the ride on the dolly.
Yeah. Those
love
are
it.
the best.
Yeah.
Those are the best, because there's
You
two
know, give 'em
seats
the
on the
wheels.
dolly. You'd sit, you get to play with the wheels.
Yeah.
That's the irony. They always say, well, we're protecting you. You have to go home. It's like, I'm not tired. My mom doesn't care. I'd rather be here. And they sent home. One time I was on a movie, and this was, I think, in 79. And they said, oh, well, you know, you're out of gas. And there was one shot left. And they said, you're going to have to come in and do it in the morning. It was just one shot. I was like, just let's do it now. Social worker, absolutely not. You're in jeopardy. Okay. So I go back to the trailer, change. It's such a pain in the ass. Now I got to come in for a full day, do 3 hours of school the next day.
Right.
So say goodbye to the social worker. She drives away. I go back in my trailer, I put my costume back on, and this was 79. Instead of the director, my mom's there. It's like, let's do it. He's like, great, let's do it. Get the close up, like, boom. Call her, say, oh, well, they canceled tomorrow. They don't need them. Now I have the day off.
Oh,
I was like, you do what you got to do.
Oh,
you know, I didn't want to come in for a full day either.
Not
like,
anymore. We'd all end up in jail now.
We'd all end up in jail.
Even in Bulgaria, when we were shooting Bulgaria on Christmas Story Christmas, they were very strict about the rules for their kids.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of kids going down hills. And you remember at one point, it was, you know, the whistle blows and the kids are done. They're going to bring in the next batch. And some woman, she says this, time is up, but I bring you 10 fresh children.
She called them fresh children.
And we try not to laugh because it's not her fault. But,
I guess that's right.
But that was just how it translates.
23 hours of polka.
I wanted to ask you, too, about John Candy, because we had read, obviously, John plays a small role, but a significant role in this, in helping provide transportation home. And we had heard that basically he agreed to 1 day.
Yes.
But this was it was truly 1 day.
Right. They milked it.
We had heard 23 hours. Can you tell us about the day?
It was
working
a
with him?
23-hour day.
Like nonstop.
Nonstop. John Hughes was on set for 2 days. But when John was there for that one long day,
he came.
John Hughes and John Candy, huge history of collaborations together, had made many successful films, great films.
And then it was all about improvising, and that's part of the reason.
Which you had not done on the rest of the film, correct? The rest of the film, you were sticking to the script.
Yes.
You're not making changes, but suddenly John Candy comes. You're writing on the spot. You want to get...
Yeah.
Did you do that?
We did that in the vehicle.
Tell me, have you ever gone on vacation and left your child home?
No. No. But I did leave one at a funeral parlor once. Yeah, it was terrible, too. You know, I was all distraught and everything, you know, the wife and I. We left the little tyke there in the funeral parlor all day. All day.
And did that just come out of nowhere?
It came out of nowhere. Just like the Polka Kings.
I had a few hits a few years ago. That's why I, you know, just polka, 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 polka. No? Twin Lakes polka, Damavuji polka, a.k.a. Kiss Me polka, polka twist.
Well, these are songs.
Yeah, some fairly big hits for us, you know, in the early 70s, you know. Yeah, we sold about 623 copies of that.
In Chicago?
No, Sheboygan.
Yeah. Did he know that he was signing up for a 23-hour day? Because for the audience, you know, a 12-hour day is a long day. Maybe we go to 14, and at that point, you're done. 23 is unheard of.
But I want to say it was a 23-hour day, but it didn't feel like it, you know? And I'm sure John was so into it and having a good time. And, you know, we were all so happy that he was there. And I think he felt it. I think he felt that he was coming in, you know, and with Catherine, who, you know, he was friends with too. From
SCTV.
SCTV.
And they're so good on screen together.
You know, and we all showed a lot of respect, which is, you know, something I want to put out there to young cinematographers. The value of showing respect to your actors and saying, I can't believe that you're here. So when you have that respect, when you have that setting, a 23-hour day didn't seem like a 23-hour day.
Right, and I'm sure with his energy and
and fun.
And it was only because he was busy with other things, could only really give one day.
Yeah.
So you had to jam it all in.
Yeah, I think somebody told me that he made less money on that day than the pizza boy.
We had read that.
12 lines.
He did it for scale as a favor. You got every ounce out of him.
Call your shot.
Do you have a shot as the cinematographer that, in your mind, defines the movie, really?
Yeah, for me, without a doubt, it's when he goes to the church. And it was just a combination of everything. And I kept thinking, how would Steven Spielberg shoot this? You know? And immediately I thought, I need a crane because I need to show something that feels like he's a tiny little kid and crane down on him and go into it. And I need to see this huge church that feels majestic and scary, but also hopeful, and it's beautiful. Yeah, and I had I used this netting material in front of the lens, you know, that gives a slight halo and a slight cross to stuff. So in the highlights, if you look closely on the street lamps, you know, they have these tiny little highlights to it.
For sure.
And it makes no sense that the stained glass windows would be lit from outside.
No, but
who cares, right?
Right. No,
I don't know. Yeah, but that was a big lighting setup.
It's also nice, you know, in this movie's a little older, but in a lot more Christmas movies, church and Christ are not in movies as much anymore. Christmas movies, and, you know, this is centered in the true spirit of Christmas, right? Which is the birth. And so you're sort of in God's house trying to sort out your issues issues and concerns. Yeah. And it's done in kind of the holiest place.
I remember also when Macaulay's having dinner by himself and it's 9 o'clock and the guys are going to show up at 9 o'clock, and right before he eats his mac and cheese, he does the sign of the cross. And I wondered about that. But, you know, Chris Columbus is a very religious person as well.
Yeah,
and he
so
respected that, and John as well. So it didn't seem forced.
It's funny because what sticks out for so long was A Charlie Brown Christmas, you know, which was in 1965. And when they're asking about that, it's Linus nails it and reads a Bible passage. And then you have almost nothing for a long time.
Yeah, it's just an interesting observation that we're seeing in some of these, how it's effective. It works. It was awesome to talk to you about it. And thanks for bringing in the stuff and for being so open.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. It's a pleasure to meet you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
This was fun.
Appreciate it.
Great. Beautiful.
If you're running a small business, especially around the holidays, you know things can get very stressful. New customers and new heights means new problems every single day. And as your business grows and your company expands, the simple tasks you used to do in a day are now taking weeks to complete.
Well, if this is you. You should know these three numbers: 36,000, 25, 1.
36,000, that's the number of businesses which have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more.
25. NetSuite turns 25 this year. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less, close their books in days, not weeks, and drive down costs.
1. Because your business is one of a kind. So you get a customized solution for all your key performance indicators in one efficient system with one source of truth. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins.
Everything you need, all in one place with NetSuite.
Right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist designed to give you consistently excellent performance. Absolutely free at netsuite.com/Christmas.
That's netsuite.com/Christmas to get your own KPI checklist. netsuite.com/Christmas.
Searching for answers.
So he's moved through this gauntlet. He's kind of gained this sense of bravery.
Right.
He's acquired some skills. And he's learned that at 9 o'clock, these burglars are coming to his house.
It is the big showdown. He's pushed it back enough times, but now...
It cannot be avoided.
Yeah, hell or high water, this is going to happen.
And so he wants maybe some advice, maybe some help. He's going to go seek out a mentor. And the first mentor he finds on the street is Santa Claus.
Santa, who just got a ticket, who's hiding that he's having a cig.
Right. And who really doesn't provide him with anything, only gives him a tic-tac, kind of pats his head and wishes him a Merry Christmas. Santa Claus is not going to provide any answers for him.
Santa is not very helpful. In fact, Santa's car doesn't even start.
So it leads him to another situation, seeking out another mentor, and that takes us to our next scene here.
Merry Christmas. May I sit down? You can say hello when you see me. You don't have to be afraid. There's a lot of things going around about me, but none of it's true. Okay? Been a good boy this year?
I think so.
You swear to it?
No.
Yeah, I had a feeling. Well, this is the place to be if you're feeling bad about yourself.
I've been kind of a pain lately. I said some things I shouldn't have. I really haven't been too good this year.
Yeah.
I'm kind of upset about it because I really like my family. Even though sometimes I say I don't. Sometimes I even think I don't. Do you get that?
I think so. How you feel about your family is a complicated thing.
Especially with an older brother.
Deep down, you always love them. But you can forget that you love them. And you can hurt them and they can hurt you. And that's not just because you're young. You want to know the real reason why I'm here right now?
Sure.
I came to hear my granddaughter sing. And I can't come and hear her tonight.
You have plans?
No. I'm not welcome.
At church?
Oh, you're always welcome at church. I'm not welcome with my son. We lost our tempers. And I said I didn't care to see him anymore. He said the same. And we haven't spoken to each other since.
If you miss him, why don't you call him?
I'm afraid if I call him, he won't talk to me.
How do you know?
I don't know. I'm just afraid he won't.
No offense, but aren't you a little old to be afraid?
You can be a little old for a lot of things. You're never too old to be afraid.
That's true. I've always been afraid of our basement. It's dark, there's weird stuff down there, and it smells funny, that sort of thing. It's bothered me for years.
The basements are like that.
Then I made myself go down there to do some laundry, and I found out it's not so bad. All this time I've been worrying about it, but if you turn on the lights, it's no big deal.
What's your point?
My point is, you should call your son.
What if he won't talk to me?
At least you'll know. Then you can stop worrying about it, and you won't have to be afraid anymore. I don't care how mad I was, I'd talk to my dad. especially around the holidays.
I don't know.
Just give it a shot. For your granddaughter, anyway. I'm sure she misses you. And the presents.
So there you have it. It is the old man who's been presented as the monster earlier, the villain next door, right?
Right. They've been scared of him the whole time. And so it's very interesting in this where they reverse roles in a way.
Yeah. This is generally when the mentor would give the sage advice that would affect the hero and he would continue on his journey with the newfound change. But it's not really what happens in this scene. Kevin kind of advises the old man and says, you need to forgive as well. You need to call your family. You need to bury the hatchet. You need to be with your family and put a value on them.
At the end of this scene, they've both been pushed from whatever forces are under that roof.
That's right.
To be able to face what they've done right, face what they've done wrong, and maybe try to go correct that on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. They both came there looking for answers. They both got it in an unlikely place from each other.
End of conflict.
Yeah, this movie, two trains have collided. Kevin and the burglars are at it. The mom is still racing to try to get home. And this leads us into our end of conflict.
What are you going to do to him, Harry?
I'll do exactly what he did to us. And I'll burn his head with a blowtorch.
You can smash his face with an iron.
I can slap him right in the face with a paint can, maybe.
Or shove a nail through his foot.
First thing I'm gonna do is bite off every one of these little fingers, one at a time.
Come on. Let's get you home.
Nice move. Always leaving the water running. Now we know each and every house that you've hit.
You know, we talked about this in other John Hughes movies. He has a character who's maybe presented as a problem.
Right.
But the protagonist shows that person grace.
Right. Somebody who maybe everyone else is either afraid of or looks down on, but they have the empathy and the humanity to treat them just as an equal or as, family or friends.
Yes.
And that person comes to their aid in the end of the game.
The bad guys are caught. All the things that they thought they were doing to be, at least Daniel Stern, to be clever is part of their undoing.
Which I have to say, what's worse than getting your house robbed on Christmas Eve is someone turning on the water. And if anyone has owned a house, the amount of damage that could do is worse than anything.
Oh, gosh, it's so true.
It's Christmas.
Kevin feels like he did it. He protected the home. He defended the house.
He's run the gauntlet. He's been transformed through all this.
And he's kind of come and he's sort of an evolved person. And all that's left to do is to resolve this great story. And so let's take a look at this next clip.
Kevin! Kevin!
Merry Christmas, sweetheart. Oh, Kevin, I'm so sorry.
Man, good stuff. Good stuff on that.
They wrap up so much so effectively.
Mom says she's sorry.
Yeah, he waits for it. She says Merry Christmas. And he said, we're not going there.
He's cleaned up that place. He's taking care of business.
You can tell he is the man of the house now.
Yeah, and he doesn't need to share what happened. He earned all that. But the beauty of this too is but it's still real in a way. Like the brother is still an ass.
Yeah.
And the pecking order's still there, but Kevin doesn't probably care anymore.
These themes that emerge from the movies that we look at, right? The power of forgiveness, which they were both able to do. He to his own family, them to him, and the neighbor to his family.
Yep.
Creates this sort of beautiful Christmas miracle.
I mean, it's such a perfect shot with the old man hugging her, and his hair is kind of wet and matted down from the real snow.
That's right.
And you just go, boy, that is truth. That is real.
And you know, this movie hits on the true meaning of Christmas: right?
Forgiveness, family, love, joy.
That's right. And it, you know, hits you in the perfect way. It's not saccharine.
Nope.
Doesn't beat you over the head, and you know, everything which is paying off in this movie was well set up.
Damn right. Good movie.
From a financial perspective, this movie did $280 million at the box office.
Yeah, and as we pointed out before, it was, you know, Warner Brothers wanted it for 10. These guys did it for 14.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good profit.
It's also pulled off something that's pretty hard to do. Siskel and Ebert originally gave it an unflattering review.
Right.
Said they didn't get the movie. It wasn't that good. It was a bunch of silly gags. A year later, after the cultural impact, financial impact, power of this movie, fan support, they kind of had to eat crow and redo the review and acknowledge how good the movie is. That is extremely rare and uncommon for reviewers, especially those guys, Siskel and Ebert of the day, were
right
as big as it gets to kind of unwind a review.
Right, that kind of eep, we were wrong.
Yes. So Home Alone, a classic, a great movie, a critical, a financial success, and no doubt lives in the pantheon where it sits.
It deserves the accolades.
It does.
It holds up, man.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, my friend.
Merry Christmas. This was fun.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks for showing up.